Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I want to thank you for all of the support that you've given me here. If you have any questions of me, you can send me a DM on my Instagram account at J. Scott Outdoors, or send me an email, jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. I want to thank you guys for listening to this podcast. Please tell your friends about it, and I appreciate your support. I also want to thank the sponsors of this podcast. I want to thank GOHUNT.com, Cody Nelson, the glassing guru. He's been on the podcast a bunch. Guys, if you need any optical needs at all, anything glassing related, tripod related, any optical questions, or if you need gear, give Cody a call at 702-847-8747. You can also text or call him on his cell phone, 602-399-3699. Guys, use the J. Scott promo code when you're signing up for the GOHUNT Insider. That's going to give you discounts. Right now, they're running a $50 GOHUNT Gear Shop gift card if you sign up using the J. Scott promo code. I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. KUIU is a direct-to-consumer brand, KUIU.com. The ultralight hunting gear is the gear that I have worn since and used since 2010. They are a direct-to-consumer brand. You can go to KUIU.com, order everything right there directly on the website. Also want to point out, for those of you that are near the Dallas, Texas area, they have just opened a retail location. So now they have a retail location in Dallas as well as in Dixon, California. Also be looking out for the KUIU guys at some of the trade shows that are coming up here in the next couple months. Thank you to KUIU for their long-time support. I also want to thank phonescope.com. Remind you guys to use the JScott23 promo code. That's going to get you 10% off on all orders at Phonescope. And then last but not least, lathropsons.com. Contact owners Stephen and James at Lathrop & Sons, 618-544-8782. They make mountain hunting boots. They have the Encompass, the Mountain Hunter, and the Elite boot. Again, reach out at 618-544-8782. Also ask them about their custom Synergy footbeds. You can also check them out at lathropsons.com. Guys, let's get right to this episode. Again, we're approaching the new year of 2024. I appreciate all your support. Reach out. Love to hear from you. Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. We're here on a rainy day in Phoenix, which we haven't been able to say in a while.
Finally.
Getting some rain here in Phoenix. I'm here at my house. I've got Cody Nelson, the optics manager, the glassing guru of GOHUNT.com, in the house. And I just had a great week a couple days ago. I was able to go up to GOHUNT, Cody.
The boys show you around a little bit?
Yeah, it was fun. We had a good time. Sat down with Lorenzo and Brady and Trail and had a good podcast.
That's
about 2 hours.
Group.
And had some fun with that, and then was able to get a tour of the warehouse and the showroom and the office, and spent a full day.
And the dogs, our pet care, I love it.
I mean, there's one dog there that they said was 9 months old, and it's like a Great Dane.
Yeah,
and it's gigantic.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's the sweetest dog, too.
And there were 4 or 5 other dogs there that were awesome. So I was wishing I took Poppy there to say
Paul's dog, Piper's the greeter at the door most of the time.
Yeah.
So
had a little
awesome.
dog bed there.
Yep. No, it's a good place to hang out, and they treat people right. And I'm sure you had a good conversation with the. I haven't heard the podcast. I don't think they released it yet.
No, it hasn't come out yet. But we had a good conversation. We talked for about 2 hours about all kinds of stuff, and so that was fun. And then I got to see the warehouse and where everything gets shipped. And I had not seen it before, and I was blown away at the size of it. You hear about it, but then you go and realize how much business GoHunt.com is actually doing.
The first time that you see those picking machines start rolling around the deal, and you can't just like pop up on a H-rack and grab something. You got to have a picker. That's the first time I realized, like, wow, this is doing something pretty cool.
Yeah, it was neat. And then the optics room that's all
Yep.
enclosed optics room.
That's a special little place right there.
Yeah. So that was fun. So here we are, I believe the 21st of December or 22nd of December. We're right here before Christmas.
Yep.
We've got a rainy day, which is great. Pretty much looks like widespread rain across kind of all the Southwest, which is good, and hopefully we get some in Mexico.
Should help those late whitetail hunters too, right?
Yeah, I would bet the guys with the whitetail tags probably excited to probably have to come back for Christmas break, but then I would think it'll make the last 5-6 days of the hunt really good.
Moon's going to be tough, but I couldn't help but think that this cold snap pushing on in through the week and in the beginning of the week, the moon or not, if they start, I mean, if anything will help them kick them in, this would help do it. But
yep.
Even though it's not prime time, but it's.
But maybe the guys in Central or in the northern units that have coups, maybe that'll kick them over the top. And I know.
Have you been getting any reports on?
I haven't done my coups, my Arizona deer report, but I usually start about Christmas time.
I've spoken to maybe probably 5 or 6 different guys over the last week, and kind of pretty typical. The small bucks, a few small bucks getting pretty aggressive and chasing like it was their life depended upon it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely kicking around and stuff starting to move in a little bit. So that's been, I don't know, of the 5, or I guess it's 5 or 6 guys, but of the 5 guys, most of them said that they saw that kind of activity. So that's pretty good.
Which is normal, this time of year, the younger deer really trying to get in there and move some does, and it's crazy though how when it really kicks in, how they get pushed off, and the bigger, more mature deer, move right in. Yeah. But today we've got a bunch of questions.
Yes, sir.
Guys want to ask about optics and glassing, and it was fun to go up to GOHUNT, and I spent some time with Omar and some of the guys going over tripod stuff, and so it kind of got the wheels turning in my head about things, and there were questions that had come in and whatnot. So let's go ahead and dive into the questions here, because I know people love this Q&A so much. All right, starting from a scratch budget. What are you guys going to go? It says starting from scratch, no budget. What are you guys going to go with for glassing setup? So starting from scratch, ground zero, no budget.
Ooh.
I mean, I think you got to go with
putting me right in the corner and making me show my cards. No, the first thing that I would start with, obviously, for me, Jay, is like I've been using the BTX 115 for for as long as it's been out now, and I've really come to enjoy that piece of gear. It works well for me. I use it for the longest ranges and the scouting and just trying to figure out where pockets of animals or where they're moving or what they're doing or where they're held up at. And I cannot have been more pleased with that.
Don't you feel like the 115 BTX, as far as a balance issue with the way the configuration is on the BTX, with the 115 objective, it actually balances the best with that setup?
Yeah, I think it's between the 95 and the BTX, like it's hard, like they do really, really well, especially I'm using the VH10 head, and I put an MP adapter on the MP20 adapter, for the Arca Swiss. And
tell the listeners what that does.
So with my VH10, Suray VH10 head, because of the plate system not being Arca Swiss, I've added an Arca Swiss adapter that, quite frankly, I actually like that locking up, the way that it locks up with a twist, and it's just super simple. I can tip the binocular in, or instead of having to slide it through the grooves all the time. So it just works for me. But that's an MP20, Suray MP20 Arca Swiss adapter is what it's called. On the bottom of it, it's got a 3/8 to quarter 20 bushing, and so you can either run quarter or you can run 3/8. on that, depending what plate system you got underneath it. But it just works real well, and it helps. I've used that same piece and put it on window mounts. I've done a lot of different things to make that. Guys that have other tripods, or heads other than Sue-Ray or something, that they want to convert all their tripods over to Arca Swiss, they can throw an MP20 on there. So it's in the GOHUNT gear shop, and I think it's it's under $50, and it saves your tail every time.
Okay, so you're starting out the BTX 115. If you're starting from scratch, no budget.
I'm probably working backwards of what a guy would expect me to say, but I think that for me, I just think that that's the tool that starts everything that I do. I don't start out the year glassing through my 10s or whatever. I always try, like right now, this time of year, trying to go out tomorrow, but we're going to get some rain, but Sunday's looking pretty good too. But it's this time of year that I like to spend a lot of time out glassing. And I'm not glassing small little pockets. I'm glassing big. I want to see deer moving around and looking for big bucks, trolling and whatever. And that's what I would be using right now most of the time. Is if I were out, I'd be using the BTX and at least a 95 or a 115.
Okay.
Going smaller?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's hard to not look at the Swarovski 15s or the Swarovski 12 NLs.
Yep. There's so many combinations as to what a guy, it all depends on where do you hunt most of your time for the chest glass. Do you really need the field of view of like a 10 NL Pure, or even like the Noctivids or some of the Zeiss, like the Zeiss SFLs. All these products have really wide field of views, and I tend to lean on a wider field of view for my chest glass than probably most people would consider. And it's because when you have a wider field of view, it's much easier to handhold. And it's just easier on the eyes, and I like that field of view, and I like being able to have bugling bulls and maybe possibly catch both of them in the same screen. And I've said this before, but if I know the difference and I can see both bulls and I know that the bull on the right's better, well, where am I going to direct my attention to? And the way that you may call or change your the call direction or however you're doing that, and if it leads me to help get that bull in tighter, then I'll take the field of view every time. Because when they're in that close, I just typically find that I don't need the power, the magnification. So a 10 NL Pure with a 10x42 NL Pure with 399 foot field of view, that's really hard to beat on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there's Noctivids and Ultravids and the Zeiss SFLs and the regular ELs. There's so many things out there that are so good, but I just would always tell somebody, just make sure you have a good piece of glass on your chest, something that you can see through, that's comfortable to look through, but you may not be spending all your time looking through. And then you mentioned the 12s. Well, then you get guys that are trying to bridge the gap. The 12s are so amazing because they allow you to have the same field of view as a regular 10, same weight, same height, but now they're giving you a couple extra magnification. We've never had to deal with that in the history of optics. We've never had that capability.
Right.
They threw us a complete curveball, and that's why it's one of the most popular pieces of glass. Quite frankly, I've sold 2 of them before I left here this morning.
Do you think with the NL Pure line that Swarovski just came out, in my opinion, the EL 10x42 was the best piece of chest glass or on tripod glass that I had looked through, and then they come out with the NL. I guess my point is where I didn't think they could ever raise the bar better than the EL.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you.
And then they throw in the NL, which has a wider field of view.
Yeah.
My question is, do you think the other brands out there saw that as kind of like a bar and have been since then trying to create their own.
I don't know how they can't look at it.
Right.
I that's a game changer, and it's without me saying a single word to somebody. That's I mean, yeah, people are educated. I think people are more educated about optics today than they were 20 years ago. And I think people are asking questions, and I think people know and maybe have a better idea what they want. But at the same time, I get to educate a lot of those people too, and work through what I think they need or what they're telling me they need. The whole wider field of view thing completely threw everybody off when they came. Like I kind of knew that there was an 8 and a 10 coming, but then when they announced the 1242, I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. Same size binocular, same frame, same weight, same height, but now you're telling me I get 2 extra, but the field of view is the same as a regular 10? Why would I not just have the 10s? I mean, the 12s.
Right.
Because now you can say, oh, well, 12s are harder to handhold. Well, they do have the option of the headrest. That's a great option. Some people love it, some people don't. It's fine. Just whatever works for you. But the fact is that you've got these choices now that have never been there.
Right.
That make it really, really hard, to do that.
Well, let me put you on the spot here. We've been talking about binoculars. He's wanting to know setup with no budget, starting from ground zero. Let's talk spotting scopes. What would be, say, your top 3 spotting scopes, or top 2, or top 5? What are your top?
I am one of my favorite pieces of gear, period, and it seems to be my absolute go-to lately, is an STX 85. If I just had to choose one, because I've already got the 115 on the, there's something about, I just love looking through that. There's an easiness to it. I know that's going against the grain a little bit because I used to carry the 95 all the time. I just, for size, weight, and everything that I've been doing, man, I just really like that. There's something really easy about digiscoping with it. I seem to get good quality pictures out of it. I don't know. STX 85 would be my go. Up and comer that I think has to be talked about these days, that I have gotten the chance to test on a number of occasions now. I don't know how you cannot look at the new Kowa 66 angled or 66 straight. With their dual focus, maybe it's because my eyes are getting older. I can't believe. Yeah, I noticed that you had glasses sitting over there.
Do you use cheaters?
Yeah, I got them right here in my pocket.
So I just went for my 2-year LASIK.
Yeah, right there, brother.
My 2-year LASIK checkup, and they said I have 2015 vision. But anything up close, I'm finding, like even on my phone, Gene made the font bigger. But I still, I can read way better.
What are those?
These are 1.25s.
Yeah, I'm somewhere between 1.25 and 1.5.
Yeah.
So I mean, they both work for me, but that's, I guess that's what I'm saying is that I start to find now, like that dual focus, man. The first time I took that spotter out, I hadn't used a dual focus in a little while since I had been playing with the 99 from Kowa, which is also another amazing piece of gear. But I was pretty blown away by how good that spotter was.
Okay. He's saying no budget. What tripod, no budget, are you going to set him up with?
If I had to just pick one right now and kind of do all of everything, man, I've been playing with the MUTNT gear. I love that tripod right now. But I've also got an 834 slick with a VA5 head. If I just had to pick one to go do everything, I think I'd pick the VA5 with an 834.
That's the exact one I use.
And only because I just feel like I got everything covered. It's heavier than like the MUTNT gear, and everything has its purpose. But if I just had to pick one and I had to kind of do all with everything, that's the one I would go with.
Okay. Let's jump to
I hope I answered that guy's question, because that's so tough just to say.
Well, if I'm going to give my answer,
I was going to say, you give me yours.
A 12 by 42 NL Pure Swarovski on my chest, and probably the twin Swarovski STS spotters as my big glass.
It's your big glass.
And the STX 95.
Okay.
That's fair enough. I really like the STX 115, but when I factor in the weight factor of carrying it around all the time, it doesn't. I have both. It just, the 115 seems to sit in second place more often because of weight.
See, this is the thing is like,
so it's like I don't have, it doesn't get me that much better.
Right.
That I say, when I'm at the truck and I'm like, which one am I going to take?
Right.
I tend to grab the 95.
So this is what I think is funny about this conversation, because I know what you used.
Here we go, folks. He's going to bust my balls.
No. This is good though. But I know what you used when you spent the month on that ranch. This,
Yeah.
I get it. I totally understand, and you and I both know. But there comes a time when you're like, man, that thing is giant. That 115. I mean it. The BTX and that together, it's 7 3/4 pounds, and we used to carry the Koa Promenars, the Highlanders
at 14,
at like 14 pounds, and had a 7-pound tripod, and so I'm thinking, but the point is that holy cow, when you have an STX or ATX hooked up to that 115, it is simply amazing what you get out of it.
Oh yeah.
But then there's times when you gotta,
If you're around the Ranger, or if you're around the truck,
right,
and you're glassing, let's say you're hunting a ranch in Mexico where it's got good roads and you've got good road structure and you can cover a lot of country. I mean, you can't beat a 115.
It's amazing.
But you start really hiking with it.
I think you get really realistic with what do you. I mean, I've seen some of the packs that these guys carry these days, and I'm like, is there a piano in there too? Like, what else you got?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just so many options, but I like where you're going with that, Jay. And by the way, if he just had to like pin me down, I'd really be hard pressed to 1042 NL. I'd have a 15, and I would do an ATX 85, and I could go anywhere in the world with that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. $2,000 budget bino recommendations. So $2,000 and under.
Oh, I think right now that's a pretty easy choice in terms of, because like the Swarovski ELs, the 8.5 and 8.5 42, and the 10 by 42 are $19.99. I think that's probably, in my opinion, the best bang for your buck in the entire industry right now. I think you're getting way more glass than what that's than the $2,000 is. Yeah, I mean that used to be a $2,600 piece.
So the binocular that I said was the best binocular I've ever looked through.
Yep, is $19.99 right now.
Right. I mean, for me, the EL, Swarovski EL, that series,
yeah,
to me was like the best I had ever. I mean, and we had used some really good binoculars, with the SLCs, and then the ELs came out. It's just crazy to see them be that affordable.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that, and then when they hit the Sworovision and you actually got that slightly wider field of view and that edge-to-edge clarity. That was simply absolutely amazing to me.
Guys, if you hear a little noise in the background, don't mind. I'm in our guest house here, and the refrigerator motor sounds like it's about ready to drive in the Indy 500.
This reminds me of the old prank call. Is you call a guy up and say, "Is your refrigerator running?" You gotta catch it.
Next question: best cheaper end tripod for my spotting scope and binoculars.
Well, I just, well, I know what he's saying. I just hate the word cheaper, but anyway, I will tell you right now that if you spend $189 and you go get the T00, it's the Surrey, SIRUI, Surrey T004 SK with a VA5 head on it for $189, I think that's a pretty good little tripod for $189. No doubt in my mind.
Interesting, when I was up at GOHUNT a couple days ago, I had not really played around with the Surrey tripods. Obviously, I've used that Surrey VA5 and VH10 head and love those.
They're good little tripods.
Man, I was doing some demonstrations for Omar with it, and it's pretty nice. Carbon fiber,
Carbon
it's got a
fiber,
good feel
twist
to it.
locks.
Yeah.
Super easy operations. They have 6-year warranties, just like the Slicks, and I mean they're a fantastic little brand. We've absolutely sold a boatload of Surrey tripods, and I mean I just can't even explain to you how many we sell.
So price point, is the Surrey in general a little bit cheaper than the Slick? Are they very similar?
Yeah, I mean so I'm not sure exactly which one you were looking at, but like an ST124. It's like $289, and they had recently had a fairly significant price reduction, and so that tripod used to be like $349, which, in my opinion, that's a really good package deal for those two pieces. And I would tell you that between the ST124, ST125, for that $289, I don't know how. I think that's a pretty solid piece, and can pretty much do what you want it to do.
This question, though, when he says best, cheaper end, you'd like it to say more affordable. But here's my question or my point, though. I would urge this listener, spend as much as you possibly can, because you'll have this tripod for probably 10 years.
Exactly.
So if you can just get the best one you can afford, don't get so fixated on affordable when save a little bit longer if you had to get the right one.
I mean, so look, I mean, we don't sell as many. Well, I'll just I'll just say it. We don't sell as many Manfrottos anymore. You just take the old 290 Extra. That model has basically been called several things over the years, but I still have those tripods today that are 20 years old.
Right.
They still work
great.
So, I think, and I think that tripod today would cost you $150. But I depending on what a guy likes, whether he likes flip locks, whether he likes twist locks. Do you like carbon fiber? Do you not want carbon fiber? Aluminum versus carbon fiber. Do you want to stand? Do you want to sit? There's all this criteria, and I think you just need to really, and this is what I do. I spend a large part of my day talking to people through tripods, because there's so many options, and there's so many heights, and so many this, so many that, that guys just really need to think about what it is that they do most and what they're trying to accomplish. And so I would tell that guy, but buy quality. And there's nothing that we've talked about here today that's not quality. So, you could look at the Vortex with, their lifetime VIP warranties. You can look at the MUT&T gears. You can look at they're all doing some pretty incredible stuff. But I think what we need to figure out is just, what works for that guy in that instance. Unless you want me to get you started on standing up while glassing. Because that's the one criteria that they want: lightweight and they want sturdy, and then they say, oh, but I want to stand up too.
Right.
And that changes the whole dynamic of what you can get out of that tripod.
Right. You just baited me.
I totally baited you into that. Oh yeah.
We'll see if I take the bait.
There's certain things you put in the water that fish are going to bite on. I don't care how you.
We had some discussion a couple days ago about standing behind your tripod and glassing, and I do understand that people really want that. And let's face it, I want it too.
Yep.
But what I try and make the point of because people are always reaching out to me to try and find more game. Yes, being able to stand has its place. What frustrates me is when I'm guiding hunters and we go and we're going to creep out on the edge of a point, and we get out there and
you're hunkered in like a
I'm settling in and, bearing down, and I look over and here's a guy just clanking his tripods together, as fast as he can, open and letting them just drop.
Flipping those legs out.
And then he's just standing up there like a beacon. Number one, everything in the canyon hurt him. Everything can see him. And then I'm thinking, he can't see as well as I can because I'm down, I'm sitting, I'm low to the ground, I've got no vibration. He's got his center post straight up in the air. He's up there just going to town. And yes, for quick scanning and glassing, but when we're coos deer hunting and we're looking very intently and very intensely, like it doesn't work consistently. So I'm sure we've got more questions on that, but dead on adapter, good for GeoVid HDB. Hear mixed reviews about it being too tight.
Well, I think, okay. So when Leica decided to make that, I'm going to call it a Poro Prism-like tube. It's kind of a mix between the two, but it's got a slight bend to it. And the way that clamp has to work on there, I think what guys are saying is that they're expecting that clamp to fit like perfectly, touch on all sides and all surface around the tube, and it doesn't do that because it's not perfectly round. So and
it's not perfectly exact between each piece.
Yes, have I seen it where it bites and gets into the rubber armoring? Have I seen it where it's left an impression? Yeah, I have. Do I think that that's entirely a bad thing? No, quite frankly, I'd rather have them on a tripod than not. Right. But the dead-on's always been a good piece of gear and a solid solution for that.
Next question, when are the 15 power NL Pures coming out? We can't go a podcast without
there's not
that
a
question.
Single, and by the way, there's not a day that goes by that I don't get asked about it.
Yeah. And the answer is we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
And we have not heard anything, and we don't know if they're even going to.
I will flat out tell you that I have put every time I've ever been asked about what are people asking for, every time I've been asked about, hey, what are you hearing? What do people want? What's the big thing out there? There has never been a single time that I've not been asked that question that I have not told the people at Swarovski, please, for the love of God, try to make a higher power NL.
And keep that wide field of view.
Keep that wide field of view. And I've given my criteria, what I think would make for an incredible, NL, and I'm just praying and hoping that shows up one day.
A 15 or an 18.
And that's the thing is people need to understand.
A 15 or an 18?
Oh, I'd love it. Are you kidding me?
It'd be incredible.
It would be amazing. And I don't know how that's going to work out. So you tell them what you want.
On that note, though, we're just sitting here speculating.
Absolutely.
As a consumer, if the world was, you could wave a wand and get what you want.
All I've said is this. If you can do for a 15 what you did for the 1250, in the 1242s, sign me up.
Right.
I will sell those. I will use those, number one, but I will sell those by the boatload.
Right. All right. Next question. Do you glass in a grid pattern, larger openings first, ? Smaller openings and edges next?
Well, so if I'm stepping over the edge, and kind of walking into a canyon, and I sneak over the edge, I get down below the horizon. I am first searching the escape routes. I am then hitting what I would call deery or
Good looking
spots. And once I feel like I've got those down, then I'm starting to take and start, scanning left to right, right to left, whatever works for you. And again, typically the sun's at my back and the sun is starting to peel the shadows away from top to bottom. So I'm typically following the shadows, but if you're not following the sun and it's just like a regular lit up, space, I'm typically using that method of I'm looking for the escape routes, I'm looking for the what I would call good spots, and then I'm starting to kind of grid or let the terrain dictate how I'm glassing it.
You know what was interesting on the Big Hunt podcast with the GOHUNT guys that I just did? This question came up. Trailer Brady brought it up and asked me how I do it, and one thing I want to add, I agree with everything you're saying. One thing I want to add is there are times like at first light and at last light that I feel like you need to be glassing much, much quicker. You're shotgunning, hitting spots, just trying to hit spots, cover spots, especially in the morning when the first light, I'm scanning back and forth. Initially when I get to a glassing point, I have a tendency to make a mistake and not look close first. I want to look at the great spots. It's a great idea to hit the closest stuff first. It's
kind of like the power glassing.
I cannot wait to let my eyes do the walking, but I think it's important to hit, sit down with your tripod, get your tripod all set up, pop out your chest glass, hand hold the 150 to 300 yard stuff that you can just see that's real close to you, that there might be a deer standing there feeding that you slipped up on, before then go to your tripod and then start working it over. But at first light, when you're glassing, the first 15, 20, 30 minutes, power scanning, pretty quick,
absolutely,
pretty moving, trying to use the sun at your advantage. Where is it lighting something up that you might just pick something? And then once the sun comes up and establishes itself and you've kind of felt like you've scanned all the stuff that might just pop out at you.
Right.
Then you say, okay, I'm going to pick this ridge. And then Brady asked the question, do you do left to right, right to left? And I said, I don't know. I would bet, being a right-handed person, I would bet I start left and pan to the right and then drop down and kind of sweep. I don't necessarily believe in the grid system. I think it's a good way to describe how to glass, but it's more like a painting of a picture or cleaning of a window.
Right.
You're trying to cover the entire window. Whether I definitely don't go up and down. I go left or right to left.
Well, and I can't remember distinctly, but I'm pretty sure Brady will tell you, like, for guys that have trouble sitting still and glassing methodically, right?
Which Lorenzo said he was one of those.
Yeah, so that's why when they brought up the glassing left to right, like you're reading a book.
Yeah.
Well, other guys will go right to left because it's a little bit more unnatural and it kind of is a little slower and it makes them slow down and be a little bit more methodical. And I think that's one of those things that you got to do what works for you.
Right.
But Jay, I agree. When that first thing in the morning thing, like if you're in a place that well, that you've been 100 times, and you always see deer in a couple, you're gonna power glass. You're gonna hit the spots that that are notorious for having deer in it, and then you're gonna start picking the others. And I think I always say let the terrain dominate what I'm doing, because to me it winds up being kind of a it's like geometry. I may hit one face and do it, left and right and down, and then because of the way another slope is, I may hit it vertical. It just depends on what I'm doing and how quickly I'm moving and whatnot. But I think that's what I think the thing that should be said is that this isn't like a grid paper where you have to hit every. You can. But
it might take you too long to do that.
At the end of the day, you're also trying to to be efficient about it. And that's why you start talking about field of views and what allows you to see edge to edge and let your eyes walk within each single field of view that you have. And yeah, I mean, I think that and the more you do it and the faster you become, I think you'd be amazed at how much you pick up just like the instant that you put your bino on something, even when something's fairly hidden. It's amazing when you can pick something, just the ridge line of a back, or the fairings, or the hairline of an inside of a white leg of a coos deer, or a white rump of a sheep, or a bull, whatever. I think it's amazing what you can catch.
One thing I might add too is I very rarely glass up and down in a vertical fashion for a specific reason. I feel like a tripod, which I like the fluid head, pan head style, fluid head style, and I feel like they're smoother, left to right,
absolutely.
right to left, and I'm sweeping.
There's a natural fluidity to that.
Right, and so if you can get in the pattern of whether you start at the top or start at the bottom, I'd probably say start at the top of the ridge, pan across, and then just work your way down, and then move to another. Is how I do it. But I've also seen guys that they're doing up and down, and I think you're going to cover country with your eyes left or right a lot smoother than you would be, moving your actual tripod arm up or down. So that's just a tip for the guys out there.
Yeah.
And then as far as openings go, so he's asking about larger openings first. The answer is yes. I think you got to look at kind of those obvious
you gotta look at
pockets
what
where
they
the
give
deer
you.
are going to be in the open, or the elk are going to be in the open. Then you start working those smaller pockets, and then the thicker pockets.
And the edges. Right.
Okay. Interesting question coming up next. Are the SIG Zulu 6 worth all the hype? I did.
I think I set you up, too.
I did actually get to look through them.
Yeah.
Now, I just was fiddle farting around with them. I didn't actually,
You didn't get to take them out in the field.
We were at the office, but I got to be honest with you. Initial impression, pretty cool.
Well, there is not one single person
pretty neat
that cannot tell you that the image stabilizing does not work, because it absolutely does.
So I had it off.
Right.
And Brady handed them to me, and I was looking, and way across the deal was like someone's whiteboard.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
Like where there was a bunch of, I don't know, they were writing, they weren't in there, but they had written stuff.
Right.
And like my hands have a natural little shake to them anyway, and so I'm looking, and then I'm just I'm not saying anything, and then he's like, get them focused, and I'm like, focused, and he's like, all right, now turn it on. And it was like, it was amazing because it like the little vibration in my hand, and then I kind of just would pan, kind of a slow pan.
It senses that.
It's amazing.
The thing that I thought was most intriguing about it was that if let's just say you were going left to right, and you kind of you panned across, and right when you stopped, you're like, okay, you saw something of interest, so you stopped. You could actually feel
the momentum.
The momentum, like instead of having that stop and that reverb like your tripod head would do, you could feel you could just feel it slow down.
It didn't feel wavy though.
No.
It felt like it was almost like a digisecond behind, if that's even a word. Just like your brain was processing.
It was like somebody just kind of applying the brake, just pumping the brake, and not so that you weren't spilling your morning coffee. You know what I'm saying? It was just like you feel it stopping, and then all of a sudden when you stop, then the image catches up, and it's very subtle and very, very smooth.
Now, Lorenzo said he was going to bring a couple pairs down to Mexico when they're down there hunting with us, and I'm excited to try them out. Where I think they might be just unbelievable is riding around in a high rack.
Well,
when we're moving.
So this is what, and this is the thing. So
or in a boat when you're looking for birds.
I am getting questioned. I will bet you I take no less than 5 or 6 phone calls a day on these right now. And I am simply trying to listen to what guys want and need and help them make the best choice that's going to allow them to do that. And the if there's a knock on them, and I don't know that I fully understand, and I haven't spoken to the SIG, guys over there and said, hey, why is there they are a more narrow field of view, okay?
Yeah.
But I also remember back in the day, people think that, well, first of all, they should understand that gyro or image stabilized binoculars have been around for years.
I remember years ago looking through a pair of Zeiss.
Well, Zeiss had the 20 by 60, but that was not electronic. That was you squeeze it and it's now it's functional. Okay, but the Canons, the Canons have been, God, they've been around for 20 years plus. So I remember when those first came out, but those had a narrow field of view too. They also had weird, and I say weird, they had, like different, they weren't like a 1042. It was like a, 16 by 32 or, whatever. So the exit pupils were different. Mm-hmm. So my thing is that again, this is one of those things that we've now got this in the system, right? And now you got people going, man, this is pretty awesome. And it is pretty awesome. But now I'm hungry for the rest of it. I'm thinking to myself, well, why?
What's the next manufacturer to drop their?
Well, what manufacturer's coming next? Then I want to know is where I think that this image stabilizing absolutely makes a 1,000% difference that is unmistakable. Spotting scopes. You put image stabilizing in spotting scopes, and it makes the idea and the actual function of focusing 1,000% different, because I'm going to tell you why. The thing that I like about those 20 by 60 Zeiss is that when you engage the actual gyro and then you go to work the focus machine, it is uncanny of how exact I can get those 20 to 60s to focus.
But isn't that more of a function of your eye focusing?
Yeah, but remember, if you're even feeling the most any little part of a shimmer and you're still trying to focus it,
right? I know
that's going to affect it somehow. And
absolutely,
I think that we're merely at the tip of the iceberg with this deal. And I'll admit, man, when Brady first told me about him, he's like, "Hey, Cody, and even he was skeptical on it."
He told me he's like head over heels.
Oh no, he is. But the thing of it is that I'm not going to, I'm just not going to sit here and go, "Oh, well, I'm getting rid of my tripod and not using any of that." That's not happening, because there's still an element of structure and glass, and you can tell me how great they are, and I think they're awesome. But if you think that being comfortable while glassing is contorting yourself into a little tiny ball sitting on the edge of a mountain with your knees, in elbows clear up into your knees, and you're going to sit that way for 4 hours looking for a coos buck, you're out of your mind.
Right. So application-wise, you do not see these replacing glassing on a tripod, which I don't either. I don't care how good they get. Now, if they keep getting better and better and better glass-wise, and you mount them on a tripod,
absolutely,
here we go.
Yeah. So this whole thing gets
I don't want people to think that the tripod goes away. I think in some circumstances and some hunts and some animals, it does.
100%.
But like focused, intense, long-range Western coos deer, sheep, mule deer, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. And again, I absolutely do not want to be put in the category of, oh, you're just, you're a naysayer, or you're against this. I'm not against this at all. I want whatever helps me find game the most efficiently. And I'm just here to tell you that these things absolutely work. I think you need to be really understanding of the exit pupils, the field of view, and the magnification range that's going to best suit for the job at hand. And so I get asked every day, Cody, if you were going to use these, what is your? And I will have a pair. I don't care what anybody says. I will have a pair of 16 by 42s. And for me, and what I like to do, they will live in my truck.
Zulu 6?
Yeah, Zulu 6. Image stabilized, the whole thing. I like the 16.
That's what I looked at.
That's the one that I like the best, because, and I'll say this, some people were like, why wouldn't you go with the 12 with a wider field of view? Well, the interesting thing about the SIGs, the 12, they both got 199.5 foot field of view. Why not take the magnification?
A little more power.
And for what I'm using them for, which is basically to look at longer distances and slopes, that do I want to get out and really study something, or is there a deer rutting on that slope that I need to check? And so that's my whole thing is that they will be used in the way that I want to. And man, the high racks, like I can think of guys that on boats, I can think of guys that are on.
Think about mule deer hunting where you're just kind of walking and glassing, or elk hunters,
yes,
that are moving, that they're really not. They're in thicker country, yep, where their tripods are probably, they're not even using them. I say to all the manufacturers, bring it, boys.
Yeah,
let's bring it. All of you step up to the plate with image stabilization, and let's see the best you got. As a consumer, bring it. I want it.
I have to think that maybe the patent or something ran out, on Canon, and now you got SIG doing it, because I think SIG, literally, just jumped out of the gate and stuff. I don't know how I didn't pay closer attention to this, because, I'll be the first one to admit, hey, I make mistakes too.
Well, I
overlook things sometimes.
I saw Cliff Gray's YouTube video, and right. Cliff's my buddy, right. And he called me. He's like, Jay, you got to check these out. I'm like, come on, Cliff, they can't be that good. He's like, Jay, they're pretty good. Well, I got to be honest, a couple days ago when I looked through them, I was like, I'm kind of looking forward to Mexico and Lorenzo bringing a couple pair, because I want to get them out in the field and really use them. So Brady was here about a month ago, and we went out and did some glassing, and I was pretty. It was evident right away that looking even at distance with them, there's an element there that you're not going to be accustomed to. It's pretty awesome, right? But again, I think it comes back to what you were saying. Depending on the animal, depending on the country, and again, it comes back to the whole thing. They're a tool, and I will have that tool in the box, and I will have it at my disposal. Okay, next question goes right along. When will Swarovski have image stabilizing binos? What about spotting scope image stabilization? I'm just telling you that the spotting scope thing is, when I really understood and used them, that's what Brady and I talked about, is like, holy cow, can you imagine what this would do when you're trying to really get set up on something and really study, what a deer has or not, or buck or bull or whatever. And that was my first thought, is that, man, this image stabilizing thing could really help the spotting scope world, and it could help for a lot of shortcomings. Dude, what is up? Very next question. Seriously, image stabilizing, range finding, 15 by 56 swirls, ETA, LOL. But there's another one. There's another one, Jay, that is, so what's a very frustrating thing with rangefinders?
if you're moving and you're hand holding,
You can't get it.
and you're not getting the exact same thing, but yet we all realize that when you put that same rangefinder on a tripod and then hit the button again,
Works
you're
every
getting basically the exact same number.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you could do this with image stabilizing, why would you not? And the cool thing is that SIG, and I think they really smartly, did this. They actually introduced some of the image stabilizing technology into their 4,000, or their 4K kilo, and I think that's worth it. So anything for more accuracy, I'll take every time.
Okay, next question. Koa 66 versus Swaro 65.
So if you're just going on like 20 to 60 eyepiece, I prefer the 25 to 50 on the Swarovski. I love because it's for all intents and purposes it's done more like an EL Swaro-Vision. There's probably 1% less of light transmission, but at the same time, it's a wider field of view and it's edge-to-edge clarity. But that's not really the question. If you choose the 25 to 50, and which one do you choose between the Koa? Jay, it's really hard for me to say this, but I've been so blown away by that Koa and that dual focus that in my own mouth right now, I'm saying I'd probably choose the Koa simply because of the focusing mechanism.
You can get a little finer.
It just really worked for me when I took it out.
Okay. Question: what is the effective glassing range?
And by the way, just so everybody knows, that Koa is, that's a $3,000 piece. And so when you talk about the Swarovski, that's like $2,649. I think that truthfully, the 65 millimeter Swarovski, even with I think that's one of the best eyepieces and bodies in the business. So don't think that I'm scrapping on the Swarovski. I mean, you're still talking about a $400 or $500 difference.
What is the effective glassing range? How far is the farthest you'll glass?
I mean, I don't know.
What animal?
Well, yeah, I mean, gosh.
What's the condition?
Some of those places in that we've glassed in, for elk. I mean, you could be talking about 5 miles.
Cody, those deer, I'm looking straight over the top of you two. Remember that?
What does that be like? Yeah. What did you say that day?
What do you mean, where is it? I'm looking right over the top of you and Cody.
You're about a half mile behind us?
Yeah.
What is that? What's the old saying, though, about that's like being fished from the back, outfished, but from the back of the boat?
Okay. Effective range. I think it's effective. Everybody has their own different effective range.
That's such a hard...
What they're using... conditions.
Okay, so let me just kind of narrow this down a little. First of all, if I'm using a BTX 115, I don't know I honestly don't know what the range is because I've found animals at multiple miles. But if you just want to talk about like a 15, I mean, I found elk and deer at miles with those too, but I would tell you that, I don't know, 3,000 yards would be kind of like... like when do I switch from the 15s to
2 miles?
So probably a couple. Yeah, I mean I think that depending on the lighting and if it's first thing in the morning, I mean you would be amazed at what you can see with a set of 15s with the sun at your back.
With the sun at your back, and then you switch it to the sun in your face. I think you cut the distance in half.
I would.
You're
agree.
saying a couple miles.
Yep.
Depending on if you're looking for an elk, I would maybe double that.
Yep.
If you can see a cow elk or a bull elk out there at 4 miles, yes, you can with good light and with 15 power binoculars.
Yep.
You're now looking into the sun. I'm going to cut that in half. But when you talk about effective range,
yeah,
I want to say that just if you just said, if you had a buck spotted or you had a hill where you knew a buck was living, how close do you want to get to it? For coos, if I can get 800-900 yards, that's perfect for me.
Right.
800-900 yards, perfect. If it's an elk, mile, perfect, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any reason to get closer. Like 300, 400, 500, I almost feel like I'm too close.
Oh, yeah.
I like that.
There's that buffer.
I like that 7, 8, 9, 1,000 yards.
Yep.
Just like that. That's like perfect distance for me.
Yeah, I've thought about this often about like, is there a chart for this? And I think that's really hard to do because that chart would have multiple like situations and it would change and so it just kind of depends on the terrain and what I'm doing, but I try to match very much the piece of glass with the job at hand. So, I'm thinking that sometimes you have to really pay attention to what you're doing.
Cody, we've got through a bunch of questions here. We've had a great day. I want to thank you for coming over and being on the podcast. I want to give you a chance here. Anything going on at GOHUNT or anything you want the listeners to know about?
Yeah, there's still some sales going on. 6 Hours got some stuff till the end of the year. Swarovski 15s are, they were $26.49. Now they're $23.99.
I saw they're 9% off.
Yeah, whatever the percentage was, but yeah, they go down to $23.99. And I would just tell somebody, look, shipping is going to be really hard, obviously because Christmas is Monday. But if you get that last minute, you need a tax break, or you're a guide and you need to get something before the end of the year, do that. Give me a holler. We can get something written up for you, and we can get it shipped out after Christmas or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, there's the Koa 88s are still on sale right now. Yeah, so just if there's any questions, holler at me. You can always reach me at 602-399-3699. You can reach me on the main phone line at 702-847-8747, or email me at optics@gohunt.com.
Cody, it's always great having you on the podcast, guys. You can also go to GOHUNT.com, right on the website and order. If you want that personalized touch, you can text Cody, get a text chain going with him. You want to call him, 602-399-3699. You can email him. It's always great having you on the podcast. We'd love to do it again here soon. Guys, I really appreciate you listening to this podcast. I obviously want to thank GOHUNT.com. They've been my title sponsor of this podcast since 2015. You've got the GOHUNT Insider. We've got application season kicking off here very, very soon. Oh, yeah. We've got Arizona coming up here the second Tuesday in February, which is a little over a month away. The GOHUNT Insider, I believe the draw odds were just updated today for Arizona and New Mexico. So go check out.
And if guys don't understand the Insider, call us. We'll run you through everything that it does for you, because it really is a pretty awesome value.
Yeah,
not just the draw odds, but the mapping,
strategy articles,
access
not to mention the savings at the GOHUNT Gear Shop.
Absolutely, points, everything.
Yeah, but GOHUNT's been a good sponsor of the podcast. I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. They're a direct-to-consumer brand. Go to KUIU.com, Phone Scope, and I want to thank Lathrop & Sons, lathropandsons.com. Guys, Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Thank you for your support. If you have any questions of me, you can email me at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. You can also send me a direct message on my Instagram account at jscottoutdoors. Until then, God bless, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank you very much, Jay.